Hi, my name is Joanne Okitoi, and together with Jennifer Lentfer, we're going to be hosting a monthly online event called the Global Dev Communicators Connect. And we're going to be helping you to reconnect with your sense of play and creativity as you do your work in the aid sector. So join us on the 14th of October at 1 p.m. BST time and 2 p.m. CST time.
So glad to welcome you when you arrive on the 14th. And just to give you a little taste of what you might find there, we're going to do a reading today from this book, Smart Risks. It's called The Dissonance, and it's written by Nora Lester Murad. And we'll just offer you a little taste of what would happen if.
What if international funders and local grassroots organizations shared their real perspectives about one another?
As a local, I've often found it frustrating to communicate with international NGOs and donors.
As an international, I've often found it frustrating to communicate with local NGOs.
I don't like the idea that I judge them, but I suppose I do. They say they want to support good local organizations in developing contexts, but their ways of thinking and acting are very problematic.
I don't like the idea that I judge them, but I suppose I do. They say they want our support, and we dedicate our careers to helping them, but they often make it much harder than it has to be.
Sometimes I think we're worse off with their help than we would be without it.
Sometimes I think we'd accomplish more if we just did the work ourselves.
In one not atypical case, we heard about an international NGO that gives small, flexible grants to organizations like ours. On their website, they had a long list of grants to organizations in our country. They even had a note in our language explaining that they like to make personal connections with their grantees. So we sent them an email. They sent back 8 pages of guidelines that were already on their website.
In one not atypical case, a local NGO wrote to me, "We need money." What does need have to do with anything, I thought? There is far more need than we could ever respond to. They should tell me why I should fund them and not another NGO. I sent them our guidelines, which were on the website. If only they had looked. They didn't even thank me.
We gave the guidelines to a student to translate for us. She did a few pages, but then her brother was seriously injured in the war. She started coming less and less. We finally managed to translate the guidelines using the internet, and we wrote our responses and translated them on the internet. Some of the questions didn't make sense, though. We skipped the one about inputs, the one about quantitative indicators, and the one about social return on investment. We had no idea what they were talking about.
I didn't hear from them for months, and then I got half a proposal. Some of the questions were answered and some weren't, and the English was so poor. Can't they get a proofreader so that I get a decent impression of their capacity? I kept thinking.
Months went by, and we didn't hear from the international NGO. They never even acknowledged receiving our proposal. We figured they were like the others, only giving to their friends.
Since I had loads of work, I put their proposal in the order it was received. And when I got to it, there was still enough time for them to get into the next funding round. I sent pages of detailed comments so that they could resubmit. Again, no response. Infuriating. They asked me for money and they're non-responsive.
Then we got an email in which they sent back our proposal. Did that mean we were under consideration? We waited. After a long time, we got 2 emails asking if we planned to submit. They came on the same day right after our weekend, as if we were supposed to answer them when the office was closed. We were confused. Hadn't we already submitted? We called the student we knew to come and explain what the donor wanted. She couldn't come, but sent a friend of hers whose English wasn't any better than ours. But we had luck. There was a foreigner sitting in the cafe outside our office. We asked him to read the emails and explain if our proposal was approved or rejected or still being considered. He said the donor had put comments on our proposal, but the comments weren't visible to us because our software was too old to be compatible with hers. We got the file on his phone. The donor had a comment on every single sentence of our proposal, but not one was about our project, only about the way we explained it. The whole thing was tiring, but we really needed the money. The war had intensified and no one else was giving the kind of services we were giving. Didn't she realize how urgent the situation was? We decided to ask her for a meeting since we heard from the other NGOs that she was coming to our town, though she herself had not told us.
They missed the deadline, and I felt sorry that I had wasted my time. But then I heard from them right before my next trip to the field. They wanted to meet. My schedule was already full with back-to-back meetings, but trying to be a nice person, I added an appointment at 6 p.m.
She gave us a meeting at 6 p.m. We had to go home to cook, supervise our kids' homework, make sure our husbands approved, and then go back out at night to meet the donor. She held her meetings in the restaurant of a fancy hotel. She bought us tea and cake, but we would rather have had the cash for our program since it was so overpriced. The woman seemed very interested in our work. But even after we explained everything in detail, she still wanted us to fill out all those papers and respond to her comments.
It was a good meeting. They were really nice women, and I liked the work they were doing. I wanted to fund them and had the money. But even weeks later, I hadn't managed to get them to send the proposal. I sent an email to ask if they planned to submit. I sent another the next day. No response. I finally just filled in the blanks for them and put my reputation on the line to get the preliminary approval from our management team.
We only have a few people in the office and everyone is dealing with war victims. And we hadn't figured out how to fill out all those papers.
The NGO thanked me, but I really don't think they realize how much effort I put in on their behalf.
But an amazing thing happened. They approved our grant. They just wanted a budget from us.
But in order to get their money, they still needed to prepare the budget. I waited for it and waited for it. The budget guidelines are very clear and easy, but again, they missed the next funding deadline.
The foreigner from the cafe agreed to do it for us, but he was called away to another part of the country for his job, and it took a while for him to come back. He finally filled the budget form the way the donor wanted it, and we sent it.
I felt like they'd taken advantage of me, and I vowed not to fund them. But when they finally got me their budget, it was fabulous. I pushed through the grant and crossed my fingers that their reporting would be good too. Sadly, it wasn't.
When the money came, we used every penny to help the refugees from the war. Even though it was a very small amount of money, no amount of information was good enough for them.
I spent so much time trying to get better reports from them. I couldn't support as many other local organizations as I wanted to. I even tried to get them extra visibility, giving them the chance to be highlighted in our annual report, on our website, in press releases. But getting information from them was like pulling teeth.
The donor kept sending emails asking for more and more information, statistics, case studies, and articles.
Do they really think we just give money without any accountability? Don't they know I'm being held accountable?
Do they really think we just survive to give them reports? Don't they know we are busy trying to meet the increasing needs of our community?
What if funder grantee communications included honest exchanges and principled practices that reflect a commitment to challenge power differentials?
What if? The Global Dev Communicators Connect is a monthly meeting in the Healing Solidarity Collective. Its aim is to support people responsible for external communications in international aid and philanthropy to connect to each other.
We will support participants to reflect on where or when we personally might be able to take more creative risks to ignite, invite change in how our organizations communicate about our work. We can all speak up against and amidst injustice when we have a built sense of community, less alone in our concerns, and more supported in our own needed growth, learning, and leaps forward. Join us on Wednesday, 14th October at 1 p.m. BST time and 8 a.m. EST. Communicators, we invite you to join us for some more honest, truthful exchanges.